Schumacher is on his last lap. Barrichello has backed off 3.5 seconds behind him. And this is going to be win number 84 of his career for Michael Schumacher. Just coming down the short back straight.
It's gone quite quickly, actually, hasn't it? It's amazing. It's the end of the race. It's been zooming past. I bet there's been more boring ones in the past from time to time when McLaren were absolutely dominating it and winning 15 out of 16 races or whatever it was. And when we used to settle in for the afternoon with one set of tyres and a full tank of gas. But anyway, Michael Schumacher then moving towards the end.
Indeed he is. There's been so much controversy in his career. Always he seems to be in the middle of it. This time not necessarily his fault. He once again wins a very controversial Grand Prix. And the Ferrari comes out of that turn 13, which caused the problems. Across the line goes Michael Schumacher to win the 6th and possibly last Grand Prix here at Indianapolis. Rubens Barrichello finishes 2nd. Thiago Monteiro finishes a lap down in 3rd place to take a trophy home here. And here's the reaction of the crowd. A mixture of delight and sheer horror from the crowd. Certainly the Ferrari fans are pleased. Here's Carter Kayan in the Jordan. A 3 and 4 finish for the Jordan team. Across the line he goes, and then the two Minardis. Christian Albers is going to finish in 5th place, and Patrick Frisacker in 6th place.
If Michael does a victory leap on the podium, I'm personally going to go and punch him.
Just listen to this. Montero celebrates. Indianapolis crowd isn't enjoying it. Michael Schumacher takes the top step. The reaction says it all from the crowd in Indianapolis. We've had a 6-horse race here this afternoon. Michael Schumacher has won his 84th career victory, the 65th of his career with Ferrari, and his first of 2005. It puts him in the championship hunt, as it does Rubens Barrichello, who finished 2nd. The crowd here don't like it. The Michelin teams didn't take part here this afternoon. It's been the greatest farce pretty much in the history of Formula One. This man is happy enough. He gets his first podium in Formula One, Jordan's first podium since 2003 Brazil with Fisichella, but what an empty experience for everybody in Formula One.
I feel sorry for Michael and Rubens up there, actually. Kind of what have they done, really? They're not the decision makers in the Ferrari team. They've been told to go and race, they've raced. And the reception, the booing is not for those two, I don't believe. The booing is for the lack of action in the event.
Well, it was an illustration of how the teams in Formula One simply can't agree, even in the most extreme circumstances. The FIA didn't seem to want to help either. Formula One should be deeply ashamed of itself today. It lost all semblance of common sense here at Indianapolis. Pinch me. Did I really see this? Well, when I arrived at the track this morning, the PA system was playing "Hit the Road, Jack, and don't you come back no more." And I have a feeling that will be the message from Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the American public to Formula One after the farce that we witnessed here today. It's easy to see the arguments on both sides. From Michelin's point of view, they knew from Friday and those accidents that they had a problem. They allowed their teams to qualify, single-lap qualifying on Saturday, so we did get a grid. But they were saying to the FIA, we cannot race these tyres. Final confirmation that the tyres were unsafe didn't come through till 6 o'clock on Sunday morning. And from then on, it was a series of meetings. How could we get this race going? The Michelin teams were saying, well, the only way we can do it is by slowing the cars down through the turn 13 banking. That's where the real danger spot is. If we put a chicane there, then even if we have a tyre failure somewhere else on the track, it won't be at such high speeds. The FIA were just not entertaining this idea at all. They didn't want to put a chicane at the last minute. Their argument was, why should we penalise the Bridgestone teams, Ferrari, Jordan and Minardi, who through no fault of their own would find themselves on the back foot just so we could accommodate Michelin. It was a real mess. It went right up to the wire, and even 5 minutes before the cars went out to the pit lane, there was still negotiations going on. But my own feeling, I think if the FIA had wanted to avoid what happened here today, they would have found a way to avoid it.
Yeah, I know. For the first time ever, a Toyota lines up at the front of the grid. Seconds later, you're in the pit lane. I mean, this is just the most bizarre situation. How do you feel about it?
Well, it's a big frustration for the whole team, for the drivers, for Formula One in general, especially here in front of the USA fans. But we couldn't avoid this situation. We were in danger, we knew it. And it was very clear that Michelin runners couldn't race today.
It's the first time I can ever remember being back out the back of the garage while the car's racing. I'm not in the slightest bit interested. This is not a race, it's a farce.
First thing is an apology to everyone. Secondly is just a simple chronology of the events with Michelin, telling us that the tyres are unsafe to use. Simple as that.
Are you embarrassed?
Very much so. No, we'd have loved to have run today, especially from our point of view. Jensen was towards the front of the grid, so you know, we look good.
Jensen, what kind of response are you expecting to get from the fans when you go through these turnstiles?
I'm sure it won't be great, but there's not much we can do about that. You know, it's terrible for them, I'm sure. You know, they've come to watch a Formula One race here. But we can't do much. You know, we have to think about our safety first, and if it's not safe to drive around here for whatever reason, you know, we can't drive. You know, that's basically it.
This could have been sorted, surely.
You'd hope so, wouldn't you? But that's not really for me to comment on. You know, there's been a lot of discussion about trying to resolve the issue, but they haven't come to a decision, so we couldn't risk it. You know, it's too dangerous.
If it was you making the decision, what would you have done?
Well, it's difficult, really. You know.
Go on.
Whatever I say will be wrong, so I'm not going to say anything. Anyway, just got to say sorry to the fans, really. It's obviously disappointing for them, so you know, just got to look forward to Mexico now, and hopefully we'll get a good reception.
Flavio, what kind of message is this sending out to people about Formula One?
Only I'm sorry. I think so the message, I'm sorry for the public, I'm sorry for the spectator, I'm sorry for the people watching TV, I'm sorry. But in another one way, and after the press release from Michelin we have in the morning, really was no question for us to racing.
But how can a multi-million-pound sport that travels around the world, has global exposure, find itself in this situation?
Yeah, normal. Sometimes you have a problem with the car, you know, you break a suspension and you call the driver to come back in the garage. This was technical problem from Michelin, happen. I hope it was not happen, you know, happen a problem like that, and we need at least cure the problem. We are very happy to leave in the people from Bristol in front of us. What we ask is only what Michelin asked, a different configuration of the circuit, and was possible change.
So why did that not happen?
You need to talk with the federation, I don't know why.
Colin, congratulations, I suppose, are in order, but how are you feeling about this podium finish and this large points haul that you've got today?
Well, I think the team did a good job. Of course, the situation is not pleasant, but I mean, we are not responsible for Michelin and for the other teams. I mean, they are not stopping races when we have tire problems, so that's racing.
I'm happy, the team is happy. We did our job. There's nothing we could have done we're not going to stop racing. I mean, we were there to race. We raced, we finished on the podium. I know the circumstances are weird, but we were there till the end, so we deserved it, I think.
How did you feel about the crowd response whilst you were up on the podium?
It's a sad moment because Formula One is not very famous in America, so we have to improve that. How can we improve that? To have a good show. Today we would have had a good show. I mean, Ferrari was starting 5th and 7th, and probably they had the fastest car and would come through the rank really rapidly. But the others retired, and the public seemed to think that it was our fault. I mean, but today there was nothing we could have done. If we could change one corner in Bahrain, I could have finished on the podium because my tire would have finished quite well. So, and they didn't do that, and so why we would have to accept a chicane that we never tested today? It would have been even more dangerous. So I'm sorry for the public here. I'm really sorry. I love to come to America. I love to race here, and I hope we keep on going with better shows in the future.
Don't think it's a bit sad? I mean, we all love racing. That's why we do this job. Don't you think it's all a bit sad today?
That's why we've been here, everybody. But I mean, we're all humans, and sometimes some humans can do mistakes, and we have to accept that.
What was it like racing out there with just Rubens?
It was a tough fight between the two of us. At the beginning, I just controlled the pace, just made sure don't push the tires too hard, and then after pit stop, I found myself a couple of seconds, 3 or 4 seconds behind.
And then what happened when you came out for the second stops?
Yeah, that was obviously a very close situation between him and me. Managed to stay.
I mean, Michael, what do you think Formula One's shown for itself? Do you think maybe the FIA should have come to an arrangement. We should have got a solution that meant everyone could race together.
There was no solution, honestly. As far as I understand, whether they would have gone through the pit lane, whether they would have gone on the speed limit or all lap, the tyre would have failed. That's what I understood.
And the future for Formula One in America doesn't look too bright, and what does that mean?
That means that we have had 5 very good years here. We have a little black spot, and we will return with good racing again.
If I was the public, I would have been very disappointed. But I am a driver who have to put all together all the effort for me to work well with my tire with a rule that doesn't allow me to change. So I've worked really hard. The tires are working quite well. Do I have to accept that somebody brought the wrong tire for here? I don't think so.
Formula One's done some crazy things lately with the FIA interfering with regulations, etc., etc. But this one today, I think, will have far-reaching implications. All this talk about stupid regulations, all the interference in the sport, it needs to stop, and it needs to stop now, because if it doesn't stop, what we're seeing here this afternoon is exactly where Formula One is heading, unless some people quickly act to right the wrongs, and the wrongs start at the top.
Well, Mark, here in the paddock at the end of the race, there's normally a bit of joy, there's normally a few smiling faces. Not this time, though.
There's nothing here at all to be, happy about. I'm depressed. I really am. I'm ashamed to be involved in Formula One at this present time, because what we put on today was farcical.
You've just spoken to 1 or 2 people from the governing body. Just give their view, particularly about not building that chicane that might just have saved this Grand Prix.
The situation is that you've got the FIA, who's the sporting body, you've got the commercial arm, which is Bernie Ecclestone, and then you've got 10 teams down the pit lane, and everybody needs to agree. That agreement never came to fruition. The FIA didn't want to put the chicane in place, because why should they have to do something for the benefit of the Michelin runners when their tyre is not up to scratch? Bridgestone obviously had a tyre that was performing. Ferrari and the other teams there had no problems whatsoever. It's a very difficult situation what's occurred, but it's clearly shown what is wrong with Formula One at this point in time. There is no communication, and everybody needs to put their heads together and correct it.
You have lived over here, you've raced over here. Will the fans stateside give Formula One another chance, or do you think this could be it?
I think this is it for the short to medium term for sure, and I wouldn't be surprised that there's not a class action libel suit turns up on the doorstep, because you've got some very, very angry people. These guys are used to having entertainment. They pay their dollars, they get a good day's entertainment, and they expect nothing more. We turn up on the doorstep, we've got a global platform, we should be able to do that. And look at this kind of reaction we clearly don't like.
Well, they deserve a refund. Whether they will get one or not, I would think is open to question. Where does this leave the Michelin tyre company, do you believe?
I don't know, Jim, on that fact. I mean, Michelin have turned up with a tyre which is not up to the job, and, that's a problem that they really have to go back and draw upon, because they've got data from the earlier races. They've obviously had the new regulation this year, which was put in to make the racing more enjoyable and a lot more productive. We've had that. We can't disagree with that. But we've turned up here, and it's caused us some problems.
I feel a lot of sympathy for the drivers, particularly Montero up there on the podium. First time, real big moment for him, and he's getting booed and things like that.
Yeah, and that's no fault of his own. I mean, he's just doing his job. He's there. He's got a car underneath him. He's got tyres which are working, and he's done a great race. He's finished the race, and he's managed to get on the podium. But it's a little bit of an empty result. He will probably know that in the bottom of his heart.
Do you think in the bottom of your heart, looking back, that we'd have been better off if we had not had any sort of race here at all, compared to the fiasco that we saw?
I have to say, at this given point in time, if it would have been yesterday afternoon and a decision needed to be made, maybe it would have been the right one to actually say shut up shop and let's not race at all, because what we've left here is a very, very bad taste in everybody's mouth.
Good. Okay, Mark, thank you very much indeed for that. Well, let's have a word with 1 and 2 of the fans, shall we, who paid over some very hard-earned dollars to watch the Grand Prix.
We're all leaving. Tell Bernie Ecclestone we're out of here. Europe that doesn't play in the United States. That's it. Yes.
I think this is really unfortunate for Formula One racing in America. I don't think it's going to recover from this anytime soon.
This was my first time here. A little disappointed about the whole situation. I don't follow racing that much, but it's a horrible experience for the first time around.
It's totally avoidable. All they had to do was declare force majeure and let the teams start from pit lane with proper tires. It's bull. I'd just like to thank all the Michelin teams for backing out of the race. I saved an entire 2 months' salary to visit Indianapolis. And I'd really like to appreciate all the Michelin teams because I wasted all my money to come here. Thank you.
I've got to go so many thousand miles back to England not having seen a proper race. I'm a Ferrari fan, but I'm more a fan of the Grand Prix, and we haven't seen anything today. It's a shame.
And we can only hope that normal service will be resumed in France in a couple of weeks. Qualifying live, ITV1, 11:30 on the Saturday, pre-race show from midday on the Sunday, highlights around midnight. The ramifications from this race at Indy, I'm sure, will rumble on. Let me just update you on how things look at the Drivers' Championship. Alonso and Raikkonen still up there, but Michael Schumacher moving from 5th to 3rd, and Rubens Barrichello from 7th to 4th. And meantime, in the Constructors, well, looking at that, BAR Honda right at the bottom are the only non-scorers after 9 rounds of F1 2005. This episode has really hammered Formula One right in the middle of a great season. Here in the United States, it could have knocked the sport out permanently. Good night.
F1 on ITV, sponsored by LG.
If you'd like to know more about Formula One, the website sponsored by LG is itv.com/F1.
12 celebrities have been cast away on one paradise island.
It's been like an episode of Dallas. I've been eating here.
There's been sun, sea, sand, and shameless flirting.
She's cool. I think she's stunning.
Oh, do you fancy it?
Tears have been spilled.
I just want to be accepted.
And there's been more than a few tantrums.
Never known anybody so up there.
So have you got a career? Go away from me.
Have some respect for yourself.
I want to punch him right in the face.
Whilst there's no question they've been in and out of lust.
Best night ever.